Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to introduce Rebecca Phoenix, who joined the Better Business Bureau in 2017 as an investigations manager for the Better Business Bureau of Eastern and Southwest Missouri and Southern Illinois, located in St. Louis, Missouri. Armed with a degree in journalism from the University of Oregon, she first worked as a journalist, spokesperson, and business leader. She then moved into the leadership and organization development field, where she served business and nonprofit leaders as a coach, trainer, consultant, and a writer. In addition to her current role as a BBB investigator, she manages the strategic programs and research. She is a key contact for news media, the editor for the Better Business Bureau's International Investigations Initiative, Studies, and a member of the St. Louis Region's Consumer Fraud Task Force. Please welcome Rebecca Phoenix.
Thank you very much, Judy. Well, it's my pleasure to be here and to talk with you a little bit about something that we've all been experiencing, but take a step back and maybe look at some things that you may not have seen in your travels through this coronavirus crisis. So specifically, we're going to talk about scams, which we're very familiar with at Better Business Bureau, as well as how do we interact with businesses? Do we do that differently now? And what does that mean for us in the future? So we'll sort of weave those concepts together throughout our exploration of this topic. Just a little bit about Better Business Bureau and why we care about this is that our mission for the last 100 years has been to be the leader in advancing marketplace trust. And so we've been around here in St. Louis since 2012, and we have been focusing on that in terms of looking at advertising as well as trying to resolve disputes through working as an intermediary with businesses and consumers. So here are some of the free services that we offer through Better Business Bureau. We offer business profiles. So you can go out there and you can check out a business. If we know about them, we'll tell you what we know. And consumers can also do the same. They can post reviews about the business, and then they also file complaints. And those complaints are worked by Better Business Bureau between the consumer and the business, and that's what we call dispute resolution. So if you went to a business and you felt like you gave them a chance to make things right with you when things didn't go well, and they didn't take that opportunity, then we'll work on your behalf to facilitate that communication. We also keep an eye open for advertising that's going on out there, and you'll see how that plays into our awareness of some of the scams going on as well. So, if we find the advertising that is less than honest, less than straightforward, we'll alert that business, because many times these are small businesses that may not have an awareness that there are advertising standards, and so we let them know about those standards, and oftentimes they self-correct. But if they don't, we work with different government agencies, because we are not a government agency, we're a nonprofit. And if there's legal action that needs to be taken, those agencies may investigate as well and then take action. And we provide information on charities as well. So if you're not sure if a charity is trustworthy, you can go to BBB and we'll tell you what we know about that. We also share information if you want to sign up for our consumer e-news. We send that out weekly and let you know about the latest goings on. And we are very active in investigations and warnings to the community. So you'll see us on television or in the newspaper a lot talking about an F-rated business that has been investigated and has not changed their ways in their dealings with consumers. And then we also issue warnings about scams and tips on how to avoid those. We do research, consumer research. We share that with accredited businesses as well as with the community at large. We do that through surveys. So if you like to participate in surveys, you can do that. You have an opportunity to do that sometimes through our consumer e-news. And we do things like this community outreach and talk about the scams that are going on out there, both for businesses. So we do the same kind of thing for businesses as well as for consumers. So those are some of the services that you might be familiar with from Better Business Bureau, or maybe not, and you can take advantage of them. So I share that because we're going to talk about scams and the pandemic, and a lot of that feeds into the knowledge that we have because we have ongoing conversations with consumers and businesses. So we're able to keep in touch with a lot of things going on. And here's one of the things that we noticed, just like everybody else, because it kind of hit us right in the face. And that was about mid-March, things started shutting down. Life as we know it was really disrupted, and that's not unusual. This disruption life cycle that is kind of displayed here along the bottom is not just for the pandemic. That's when things happen that are really disruptive in anything. But specifically, we're looking at the pandemic, and we see that pretty quickly, we went from shutdown, people were sheltering at home. So we were kind of shocked, we were reorienting ourselves. And, we kind of would wish we would move right through this, but we've been sort of stuck in the middle here. In this model, it's kind of called the command phase. And it's where we adjust and readjust and just kind of keep doing this. And eventually, we will be into like a full recovery phase, but that really doesn't start until the emergency is over and all mandates are lifted. So, I think out of just sheer boredom, sometimes, we want things to move on all the way to, our whole economy depends on us being able to do things differently. People are just really anxious to get moving on. But here we are, we find ourselves dealing with things, and it causes a perfect opportunity for scammers. Now, I'm going to go through this list, and this list again would apply whether we're dealing with the pandemic or not. But as you'll see, it just fits it perfectly for creating this environment for scammers. Disruption and confusion, either on a personal level or the marketplace. And we see both of those things going on right now. Fear, loneliness, embarrassment. Scammers prey on that. They will try to incite fear. They will try to cause you to be embarrassed about sharing information that you've been scammed. And many times they'll approach people because they know that they're lonely. And even though people know that it's a scam, they sometimes continue to participate in it because somebody's paying attention to them. So scammers prey on that. We've also found that a lot of reasons that people will fall for a scam when they otherwise wouldn't is because they have a fear of missing out. Now, early on in the pandemic, that might have looked like, finding the last roll of toilet paper just in case. And you didn't want to miss out on that and being well stocked. But also just different people like to be on the cutting edge of things, or they don't want to miss out on a good deal. Lots of ways that looks for us individually. We also find scammers impersonating trusted relationships. So that can be from the government. It can be even a grandchild. There are grandparents, we call it the grandparent scam, but it's anytime a scammer impersonates a person who is well known to the intended victim, like a grandchild or somebody else. And they'll often do that by saying that they've been in an accident or they've been arrested and they need you to send money right away. And they like to call in the middle of the night because you're a little more disoriented then. And they can also make up stories about why it doesn't quite sound like that family member. So again, we've got that going on because we're all a little off during this time. They also know that they can work with anonymity. They can do that through, particularly now with COVID, because we can't go face to face or don't feel comfortable going face to face in a lot of situations. And that creates another layer of anonymity for scammers so that they don't have to see you and meet with you. And they can do these scams from long distances. It also helps, that a lot of us are unfamiliar with technology or the current technology that we're using. And so scammers will use that as part of their scam. There's also a global connection available, and that's something that technology affords us, which is really good in a lot of ways because it opens up the marketplace and the things that are available to us. But it also lets scammers pretend to be somebody that they're not, and to really work at a distance. And then what they end up doing is transferring money back into other countries, and it bounces around from country to country, and it's essentially untraceable. So they use those kinds of methods for such as wire transfer, and one that you just wouldn't think would be so effective, but it's extremely effective for them, and that's gift cards. So they use gift cards even to pay for through eBay to pay for cars. And they'll come up with plausible sounding reasons for all of these things. So one of the best ways to fight these kinds of things is to do exactly what you're doing now, is to become aware of it. And then it's sort of like shines the light on it, and it makes it a lot harder for those scammers to be effective. So let me ask you this, and you can kind of answer this question in your own head. But if you guys can see yourselves, you can wave your hand if you've received one of these. That might be helpful too. But in the last 3 months, have you come across any of the following situations? Did you get an unsolicited text message? Did you get a robocall? Did you get an email asking you to click on a link? Did you get a phone call from someone you don't know? Did you get a fake check in the mail? Did you come across an unfamiliar website that had a product at a really great price and you felt very tempted, or you did order it without knowing about that website? Have you gotten what we call crowdsourced donation requests? Those are sort of like fundraisers online. Did you get one of those? Did you get a mailer that requires you to take action immediately, or some other kind of thing that creates a sense of urgency? Did you come across a social media quiz of some kind, something on Facebook that maybe asks you to, what kind of personality are you, or something like that? Or were you on some kind of a platform and had an interaction where somebody wanted to go off that platform and either correspond with you in social media or like an online marketplace, Facebook marketplace or something like that? So I can't necessarily see all of you now, but I'm betting that at least everybody has come across one of these. And you may not have become a victim, but these are all ways that scammers make first contact with us. So who are they? Well, they are people who are often in other places, in other parts of the world, or they could be in your own backyard. Many of them are international crime rings, and they're involved with multiple scams. So, you think, well, how can they be? Well, they are just connected because the scams, while the story is different, the way that they operate is often very similar. And a lot of times they're moving money between these scams. But it can also be somebody who is just an opportunist, and they're working on a small scale, and they're doing whatever they can to depart you from either one of two things: your hard-earned money or your personal information. Sometimes that personal information is like the big stuff, like your social security number, which most of us realize we should not share that information with people we don't know. But they can also take little bits of information, and after a while, they've got your full profile pulled together, and this little thing helps them to know something maybe about a password. They can start through just running these computer programs that figure out passwords from your information, they can start to do that too. So there is no such thing as just, well, that wasn't really important what they got. If they're trying to get it, it's important to them for one reason or another. But it always comes back to eventually they will earn money if they didn't get it from you directly. So we're going to take a look at some of these scams. I'm going to run it through maybe about 11 or so scams that are pretty prevalent right now in our area. There are more scams, but these are ones that we've been seeing, and we'll also kind of follow it through the coronavirus pandemic. So you'll see how this has continued to present more opportunities for people. So early on, we started seeing fake websites popping up, like brand spanking new websites that made false claims for having anything from treatments to cures for the coronavirus. There were also websites popping up selling face masks, which were in short supply. Some of them actually were shipping things, but they were very poor quality. And in many cases, people just never got the products that they ordered. They were also endorsing, putting fake endorsements out there for different products. And then we also saw inflated prices on hard to get items. Some of those things were on the internet, but some were in stores too. So we heard a lot of complaints about those. The Missouri Attorney General's office took very quick action on those and started contacting those businesses that were doing that and saying, no, you're not allowed to do that, cease and desist, and in other cases took action against them. So the way that you know that you're dealing with some of these things is particularly in the beginning of this pandemic, but this is still going on, and that is that a website pops up and has no contact information. There are ways to see if a website is new. And you can just, for a lot of these things, because it would take me a long time to explain how to do it, just Google it. Say, how do I tell if a website is new? And Google will take you and show you some different ways that you can do that. It's not very hard. But you can do this, like when you're just out there shopping on a website, check to see if they have direct contact information. If they require you to just email them or to contact just some kind of a help number, but you don't know where that company is located and you can't get a hold of somebody directly, that's a big red flag that you might want to think again about ordering anything from that company, because if you have problems, you don't know if you're ever going to be able to get somebody to help you. Now, they may have sketchy return policies too on these fake websites. So check out their return policy long before you need to return anything. And then just make sure that if they are making claims about something, that they provide research, check it out, and then make sure that there aren't negative online reviews. Go to a website other than their own, where of course anything they post is going to most likely be a positive thing, and just put in their name. And you can always put the word scam after something. And while it may not even really be a scam, that often brings the negative things out. So you can see what's out there on the internet about a particular company. Now, we also saw a lot of scamming going on around the government impact checks, so stimulus checks. And it all depended on what was going on. Now, scammers are on top of what's going on in the news, so they will capitalize on things very quickly. And they'll send out text messages or emails. The more that they can get ahead of the game, the better for them, because you're not necessarily aware of what was going on. So they sent things out. These are actual examples that we've collected here. They sent out fake stimulus checks. And the way that works is that you go and cash it, and then they contact you and say they sent you too much, and then you need to send that back, send some of that back. Well, what happens is the check never clears, and you end up sending money out to them, to the scammers, and then the check bounces after a week or two, and then you're liable for any money that you've spent out of that check. So the money you sent to the scammers, as well as anything else. Then they also would send these text messages wanting you to click on something, and they'll start to gather information based on that. So again, if you receive any kind of a link or attachment, just don't click on it. You're going to get contacted through the regular ways. You don't have to worry about acting really quickly. So if we have more of this kind of thing, we'll continue to see scammers pop up around this. Then we started seeing government imposter scams, so closely related to the one we just looked at, but this shifted, we found about, let's see, I'm trying to think, around April, May-ish, started being really heavy into the IRS and Social Security or CDC or World Health Organization, things around what we were going through with health issues. And so they sometimes offered free COVID-19 tests, or they would do contact tracing saying that you were a victim and that you needed to click here and register or pay for your test, or all kinds of ways that they did it. This is not new, the government imposter scam, but it definitely has a COVID spin. You can see some of the text messages there that were received. And so between 2014 and 2019, the FBI had reports of $450 million lost to this kind of scam. So it doesn't take much. You may think, well, who falls for that? A lot of people do. And they change it up often enough that it looks fresh and looks pretty legit. So resist those scare tactics, because they often, posing for a government official, will tell you that you're going to be arrested, or that there'll be a fine if you don't do this, whatever they're asking you to do. They're usually after your information or credit card number. They also provide opt-out options, which means if you don't want to receive this text message or something like that, unsubscribe or text stop or no. But don't do that, because another thing that they're doing is they're verifying that your email or your phone number is real. And that makes you more valuable on the black market, so to speak, because they sell these lists of verified phone numbers. And those are worth something. See, everything is worth something to a scammer. And then they tend to take whatever it is, they'll ask for gift card, money order, wire transfer, Bitcoin, or cash payment. None of that is necessary. So if you see that, that's again a big red flag that you're probably a target for a scam. Oh, and then, we're sitting at home where many people found themselves with more time on their hands with their kids. And what better time to get a cute puppy for the kiddos? So people were looking for puppies, but finding that, that it was not comfortable to go see the puppy, or in many cases, puppy breeders would not allow that, and neither would the scammers. So scammers hopped right on board with this and took advantage of the COVID restrictions to say that they can't meet in person. So people, as they were finding even that the shelters had fewer pets for adoption for a time, they were going online and paying several hundred to several $1,000s for a pet that never existed. This cute little guy up there at the top, that picture's been on the internet for all kinds of things. And that's one of the ways that you can do it. It's called a reverse image search, and it will show you if that photo has been used elsewhere on the internet. And if it has, then you don't want to go with that, whoever it is who's trying to sell it. There have been estimates that as many as 80% of the pet ads that you see online are fake. But what we saw during COVID is not only would they sell you a pet that never is going to come, but they would also start adding on costs for a fake COVID shot, which doesn't exist. But in the news, there was something about, I think it was tigers or something that got COVID. So boom, scammers were right on that. And charging for insurance against COVID as well, which again, there's no such thing. So even there's certain breeds, such as the French Bulldog, that is a particularly popular one. And that picture on the lower part of your screen there is just from a breeder saying, you know, we are not out there actively doing this. We have no affiliation. Sometimes these scammers will take on the name of a legitimate dog breeder and then scam people. So they're saying, you know, we're not part of whoever it is who's telling you they're using our name. So those are some red flags. The other thing is that if you're in the market for a puppy and you find a really low price for that particular breed, you need to have done your research to know that, because scammers will often try to sell things at a low price, again, to create that sense of urgency, because you don't want to miss out and lose that cute little puppy. So watch out for that. Now, again, as we were kind of missing people out there, the scammers were right on one of their tried and true scams, and that is romance scams. Now, this is one that often takes some time. People used to refer to the scammers as con men. And this was one of the oldest cons, which is to create a fake identity, essentially, and to lure someone into a relationship and then take their money. Now what that looks like is using the internet for those kinds of relationships. They sometimes will start very innocently on some kind of an actual website that connects people. But sometimes it's just an email or something like that, or somebody on Facebook tries to be your Facebook friend, and then the one of the red flags is they very quickly want to move off that platform, off the dating platform or whatever platform it was that they met you on, and they start the relationship starts to escalate pretty quickly. A red flag is that they start using terms of endearment really quickly. You know, sweetie, honey, just referring to you in that regard. And they are very interested. They ask a lot of good questions. They learn a lot about the person who's their targeted victim. It's referred to as grooming, because they're going to find out what's the best way to scam this person. But they spend a lot of time with their victims to learn about them. And what we hear time and time again is that this person was so nice. You know, never had somebody listen to me like this before, really seemed to care about me. And sometimes the people who are victims continue in it even after they know that they're being scammed, because they just like this person who seems to care so much for them. Eventually, though, it does turn into this situation where they're asking for money. Usually there's some kind of an emergency that occurs, or they sometimes will pretend to be somebody who's very wealthy, but something has gotten held up in customs someplace. Many excuses for why they need help with money. And so that's how they usually continue to get it. They will never meet with you. And eventually they may create such a deep relationship with this person that they actually enlist that person to be what's referred to as a money mule. It's somebody who actually now is actively participating in other scams, and they're receiving and transferring money on behalf of the scammers. So this is one of the ones we just hate to hear about, although we want to hear about it. You know, if you think you've been a victim, we can put you in touch with a lot of resources, because this just does so much damage to the person, psychologically, as well as monetarily. People have lost their entire life savings over these kinds of scams with romance scams. And so there's a lot of help that's available, because once they've got their claws into you on this, it's very hard to let go, both for the victim as well as the scammers will be relentless. Your name has gotten on their lists, and so you may be done with this scammer, but other scammers are going to contact you. And that's true with a lot of these scams. Once you are a victim of the scammers will continue to sell your information to other scammers, and they'll contact you. Now, as people were losing their jobs, this created another opportunity for scammers in our area to go after people who thought it might be good to work at home. Other people were. So if they lost their job in a service industry, they're thinking, well, this looks like a pretty good deal. And so where people were finding these jobs are on monster.com or any of the other recruiting websites, and for a variety of jobs. Secret shopper is probably one of the most common, where you get paid to go out and spend money in terms of gift cards at like Walmart or different places to check out the quality of the service. And in the end, it's your own money that you're paying on that and sending it to the scammer. Reshipping of goods. That's another big one that we saw here, where for about a month, people think that they're actually working for a legit company, and they're receiving things. It could have been electronics, all kinds of things, and they're repackaging them and shipping them off to another address. They're actually part of another scam that is a money laundering scam. And so they don't know it though, but after a month, they never receive their check, and they start wondering what's going on, and then they get locked out of the website. So essentially scammers have used them for a month for free work. Other things include data entry, envelope stuffing, day trading stocks, taking online surveys, all ways that eventually you're out money and you don't get paid. Another one, a different kind of spin, no pun intended here, is a car wrap. And that's often appealing to young people. They get contacted that if they agree to have their car wrapped in this decal that advertises some product like Red Bull or something like that, that they'll get paid to do that. And they get sent a fake check, which they deposit, and then they end up sometimes having to send money back because they, again, were supposedly overpaid, and they end up losing money out of it. And they never actually even got the car wrap. That never happens because it's all fake. So those have been going on and continue to go on. Now, people were also losing money or about to lose money as a result of not paying their rent or not paying bills. And so scammers hopped all over that too. They posed as fake loan companies or government agencies, saying that money was owed. They're threatening lawsuits or arrest. And here's a red flag though, that that that's fake, is that they can't provide validation of the debt, which is a requirement. They can't because it's not true, or whatever they do provide is fake, and you can contact the company, which you don't contact them based on the numbers they give you. You find the name of the company out on the internet and from a couple of different sources and call that number, and you can find out if you do have debt. You can also check on your credit report, and if somebody says that you have outstanding debt and you don't, hang up. Best defense against scammers is just to hang up. I mentioned this one earlier, social media quizzes. Seems like it's harmless, right? To participate in those things and kind of fun. These are designed by scammers to collect personal information. Typically, the questions they ask in some way are related to security questions that you might use on various websites. Or they may be gathering information about a relative of yours. So they're really tricky. Again, scammers do this full time. They have a lot of time to figure out very intricate ways that they can go about gathering information. So many times these scams are about creating fake identities that are going to be sold on the black market, or real identities that are sold on the black market. So make sure you change your security settings frequently, that you check your privacy settings on the various applications you have. Don't give answers to the kinds of things like are listed here, which are typical security questions. And change your security answers on your accounts, not only your password, but your answers regularly. And monitor and vet your friends lists. So in other words, you know, if you see a lot of strange looking names on your Facebook friends, those may be people you didn't really mean to friend, and you can unfriend them because they're probably trolling for information. Likewise, we started seeing loan and grant scams during this time, which is where there's a loan, you know, no matter what your credit looks like, or a grant often comes across as a text message, but then nothing is ever received. And what they're doing is usually gathering personal information. Sometimes they make you pay for application fees. So the rule of thumb there is that you should never have to pay for money to get money. And often, again, they were using the unusual forms of payment like gift cards, wire transfer, using cash apps has become very popular now, and debit cards. We always recommend that whenever possible that you use a credit card. And I know not everybody has credit cards, but if it's possible, I'm not pitching these for any particular reason other than they offer you a lot of security in the event that you are scammed. So it's something to keep in mind. And if an organization is wanting your money and they don't have the ability to accept a credit card, that's again another red flag, because there's so many ways for them to take credit cards now. Administrative fees. Again, where you're paying something for this money that's supposed to be free. And then another red flag is when you have to pay a particular person instead of the company. And then I investigated several of these too, where they have look-alike company names, like there's a letter difference, or just something so very close to a legit company that it's hard to know if they're a subsidiary or not of a larger company. So again, I'll give you phone numbers at the end here, but if you're in doubt of any of these things, you can call us at Better Business Bureau and we'll help you think through and look through, you know, is this company legit or not, if you have any doubts. Fake charity scams. We like to say, you know, if it's not a company that you have already checked out and want to give your money to, and somebody's asking you for money, well, if you're comfortable putting money in the jar someplace and you know you're not going to deduct that from your taxes or anything like that, you know, that's your choice. But just know that it's really hard to tell where money is going unless it has been vetted in some way. So scammers right now are out there asking for money or gifts, in-kind gifts. So they're trying to get stuff. And they're out there doing that all the time. Many times these are not organized crimes. These are individuals that are doing it. But there are also ones that are posing as charities using copycat names. And some of these may be organized, a little bit more organized crimes. So the list that you see here are fake. These are fake, but they sure look like they're real. Like, I don't think I've heard of that. So some red flags. You can always ask the company or the charity for their IRS 990 form. Many times it's supposed to be available to the public. And if they can't provide that information, or they can't provide you information on their mission, then they're likely a scam. And if they're pressuring you to give now, they're likely a scam, because these organizations always need money and they will accept your money anytime. One of the things to kind of look for, though, that's not really a scam, but it makes you kind of wonder if you want to give your money to them. And those are organizations that work on behalf of a so-called charity, but most of the money does not go to the mission in the organization. It goes to soliciting the money. So ask questions because they should be very open about providing it. Virtual vehicle vendor scams. That's a tongue twister. Try saying that a few times. But this is something that BBB actually was right in the middle of a couple of years ago. In fact, our BBB was kind of the center of the action for this. Again, scamming people based on cars, that's been around for a long time. But this scam was using fake ads on Craigslist, eBay Motors, Facebook Marketplace, Auto Trader, and they were advertising for just an outstanding vehicle at a really low price. And they were able to do that because that vehicle doesn't exist. And when I say vehicle, I mean anything with a motor. We saw backhoes, boats, jet skis, even semi-trucks were being sold, and never came. What they did when this was about 2 years ago is the stories were remarkably the same. It was usually a woman who had moved to Springfield, Missouri, and she usually moved there to be with her daughter because her husband died. And whatever the vehicle was that was being sold belonged to her husband. Sometimes it was a son or a daughter or something, but most of the time it was the husband. And it brought back bad memories, so she was selling it, but she was using a fake company really, in Springfield, Missouri, that was going to hold the money while this vehicle was being shipped to the buyer. And the buyer would have 5 days to look over the vehicle, and if they decided they didn't want the vehicle, they could send the vehicle back and get their money back. Sounds like a great deal, except that escrow company didn't exist either. These fake online shipping companies / escrow companies were just that. They were fake. They had very elaborate websites. They kind of all looked the same, the websites. We counted 30 of them supposedly being in Springfield, Missouri. And the funny thing was that the scammer, the person who was trying to sell the vehicles, these fake vehicles, often used these old actresses' names, which was just kind of funny. We find that at least a little amusing in the investigations realm. It's like, I've been around long enough to know that name. But the vehicle didn't arrive. There were a number of people who were arrested as part of an operation going on in Kentucky. And as soon as that happened, we saw a decrease in these scams. Now, these didn't just affect people in Missouri. These affected people all over the country because they were going on Craigslist or something like that and finding these vehicles locally, but then they ended up, being part of this whole big elaborate scam. It's been resurging during COVID. So again, sad story, too good to be true prices. They're using eBay Motors more now. The key here is that they want you to go off of eBay Motors and just handle the transaction one-on-one. And they often have you pay with eBay gift cards, which again, that's more plausible, paying with a gift card, except you're never going to get it. And this is many thousands of dollars. $57 million have been lost in the last 3.5 years, according to the FBI estimates. We have a few million that we've estimated, but we only hear about the tip of the iceberg. We only hear about 5 to 10% of what's going on out there. So it's going on a lot more. So bottom line is, be very careful if you are buying a car online. And if you have family members too, then you're going to want to tell them about this. No third party. Don't go through a third party who's going to hold the money. Don't pay for it by wire transfer because you will never see that money again, or by eBay gift card. Moving scams. Again, moving scams are always going on. And this is one of these things you don't hear about too much until you're moving. But what this essentially is that people's goods, their personal belongings get given to somebody they don't know who's supposed to move these things. And the movers end up holding the goods for ransom and charging people more. So that's kind of the center of what this is. Now they may start out with a low ball quote and then they keep adding on. They may have undisclosed fees, delays in delivery, and they're going to have to hold your stuff longer. So that's all around getting more and more money out of you, which is illegal. But these companies are actually real companies. It's just they are very unscrupulous and they do get arrested for this. But they also end up hiring local people to move. They're supposed to be a professional company, but they rent a local truck. They hire local people to move who don't know what they're doing, and your goods get damaged and you think you're going to be able to get some money back and you can't. So about 57%, almost 60% of the complaints that we have gotten in 2019, which were 13,000 complaints about movers, were about the overcharging. So just be very careful if you have a move. Call BBB and we can help you find a good mover. So those were just some of them. As I said, there are more, but you start to see a pattern there. A lot of these start to look similar. Don't be a victim. That's one of the ways that we can get through this okay. So inform yourself, watch out for other people, and report bad behavior. You know, when we were seeing those overcharging for goods or fake websites, report this stuff, and I'll give you names and numbers of places where you can report these things. But also support your local businesses, because that's how we're going to get out of this thing, is by keeping our economy alive. Wear your masks, do all the personal protection that you can for yourself as well as for other people, and look for companies that are doing the same thing, that are really demonstrating integrity. So we're going to look at these just for a moment. So don't be a victim. This is kind of the money slide here, literally and figuratively, so that you are not a victim. Keep your information safeguarded. Don't open attachments or click on links in emails or text messages. And if somebody calls you and you don't know them, let your phone go to voicemail, because if it's important, they're going to leave a message for you. And also, you can put the people who are important to you, put their name in your contacts with your phone number, and that way, when you get a phone call, their name will pop up and you'll know who it is. Scammers still can impersonate people though. So you do need to be a little careful with caller ID, but that makes it a lot harder for them to do it. Question payment methods that just don't seem right. Don't let people say, well, this is the current way to do it. So wire transfer like Western Union or MoneyGram, cash apps, like Venmo, Cash App, it's also called, PayPal, gift cards, debit cards. That's just not a good way to pay for things and have any kind of protection. So pay by credit card if possible. Verify everything before you act, unless you're fine with losing your money, and you might be. But if you want to protect yourself, verify, because that's often how you can stop from being a victim. And you can do your research, start at bbb.org, use the rest of the internet as well, get advice, help from other people, and help other people to stay informed. And then you can report any kind of suspected scam. You can go right into BBB Scam Tracker and do that. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. Support your local businesses. And that's not just going out and spending money on your local businesses, but you could buy a gift certificate for future use. Christmas, other holidays, Hanukkah are coming, birthdays, any of those kind of things are coming. for all of us. And that's one way you can do it. Keep it local. Leave a positive review on bbb.org and the website for that business. It's like giving people a compliment. Like and share their social media pages and specials. That helps them too in their business. And if you come across ideas about how they can improve things, or that you see that might be helpful for them, share it with them, because that's the way that people are innovating. And this is a time of innovation right now. And then there's always that tried and true, say thank you and appreciate people for their efforts. You can volunteer to help, or instead of taking a refund, make it a donation to the company or to another organization. Tip generously and refer a friend to the company. So lots of ways that we can do that right now. And look for integrity in businesses. Fred Rogers was quoted as saying, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'" So that's what we encourage you to do too, is to look for the companies that are out there doing things. And these are just a few here on your screen, which are just really there for illustration. We have 5 different offices, including the St. Louis office in our service area here. That's Cape Girardeau, Springfield, Quincy, Columbia. But all of them, we've just been so inspired by the companies that are doing really cool things out there to help other people during this time. So support those businesses. And do take care of yourself and others. Again, follow the CDC guidelines, but also just when you're interacting with businesses or with other people, seek those win-win solutions. Not only what's in it for you that's good, but also what's in it for the other person. And we should treat each other ethically and with compassion and with grace, because when the dust settles, we're going to remember how we treated each other during this crisis. And it will influence our relationships as well as how we interact and do business with each other going forward. So BBB has those standards of trust that are down there at the bottom. Embody integrity, be responsive, tell the truth, honor promises, build trust, advertise honestly, safeguard privacy, and be transparent. Those are standards for businesses, but really those are standards for all of us in terms of how we conduct ourselves. And report poor, that should be poor marketplace behavior. Price gouging, passing off inferior products as real, misleading consumers about products' benefits, trying to incite fear and panic to increase sales. I actually got one of these, a flyer saying, are mosquitoes carriers of COVID-19? We can't be too sure. Better get your lawn sprayed. Spoiler alert, they are not. But we did challenge that company, and they very quickly took that down because that was just not good marketplace behavior. And then cancellation of services. That's a tricky one, and probably what we've gotten the most complaints on is people not getting refunds because the company said, well, according to your contract, you don't get a refund for your travel plans or for whatever, or they're slow to refund. The thing about that is that we do have to give companies some grace because they're struggling as well amidst a lot of refunds that they've had to put out or just struggling to survive. But also the companies that are taking advantage of this whole thing. So that's what we are really looking for. And you can report those kinds of things on Scam Tracker. So again, just Google BBB Scam Tracker or the word Scam Tracker, and this is what you'll see. It will show you, this is a heat map, and it shows you the scams that are going on right down practically to your neighborhood. And you just click on the plus sign and it'll zoom in closer and closer and closer, and you can see what scams are going on in your area. Or you can type in a keyword and you can see them too. You can also file a scam Again, it'll say report a scam. And this just shows you that closer up view of what it looks like here in St. Louis for some scams that are going on. And again, you can do it by, you can search particular scams or scam types here and particular dates. Now, I did last week, I think it was, just took some of the top scams in our area, and this is what they were. Online purchases, again, tech support, counterfeit products, people buying a lot of things online though, and so a lot of it is related to that right now. You could find more on some of these topics that I talked about under BBB scam studies. That's also here, as well as research that we're doing. So this is a good place for you to keep in touch with things that are going on. So we have a couple of minutes left for questions. In the end, I will keep up this information. In fact, I will keep that up here for a moment. But Judy, do we have any questions from people?
Does anyone have questions? Susan Kempinen.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. I'm wondering if you can give us some feedback about medical companies, and they are real medical companies, but how they'll try to double bill. For example, my son had surgery, and we prepaid for the entire surgery up front, and the anesthesiologist, they warned us that the anesthesiology company would try to get more money from us above what the contractual amount was between them and the doctor's office. And they did. They tried that, and then they get a collections person involved, and they said that we're calling you about collections. Now, my husband is an attorney, and once my husband got involved, of course, it got dropped right away because it was an invalid, debt. So how do we deal with that? I mean, I feel like a lot of doctors' offices and different medical places will try to double bill. They'll try to get money above and beyond what they're entitled to, and people pay it because they don't know otherwise.
Right, right. Well, first off, I will answer your question, but my caveat is that the Better Business Bureau does not get involved usually in this is one of those things where a lot of it depends. We do get involved in things if it's the way that the business operates. So this could be for billing and that kind of thing. You know, if there's some practices, so you could contact Better Business Bureau if you feel like, you know, that you're not getting the results you want after dealing with that company. And we can see if it's something that we can take. Sometimes it's a matter of them, it gets more to the medical side, and then we can't necessarily be involved with that. But you know, the same advice that I would give you in this situation would apply to dealing with a lot of other businesses, and that is you've got to look at your invoices so carefully because you've got to be able to tell if you've been double billed or not. And then if you do find that you have been, then you need to contact that company and give them a chance to correct it. If they don't, then you can start filing complaints with people. And you know, just like any other business, a lot of these medical firms, we'll just call them, don't like to have bad reviews either. So you can put a bad review out there and check them before you decide to go with somebody, because we do have a lot of choices too. So unfortunately, a lot of it is research, but also you do, you know, give them a chance and then file a complaint, and we see if we can help you with it.
Is that considered a scam, or is it just like, I think probably most people get a bill in the mail and or a call from a collections agency and they pay it because they're scared. Is that like a scam? Is that something that they're doing, hoping that people just pay it so that they
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a scam, because scammers intend to take your money or your information and provide you nothing. So it's probably, you know, we put that in, it's a marketplace dispute at the very least, and then it's also could be a bad business practice. So we would try to possibly help with both of those. Thank you for your question. I think I saw somebody else waving a hand.
Steve has a question.
Yeah, these things with the medical, I deal with these all the time down at Call for Action at Channel 2. And what it is a lot of the ancillary services, the anesthesiologists, the pathologists are out of network. They do their own billing. And I've even had them over at DePaul. Even the emergency room was out of network. And the lady went in there and just to check in at DePaul Hospital, they had to go through the emergency room. And because of just checking through the emergency room, she got a bill just for over $1,000. I handle all of these. I've been doing them for over 20 years. And if anybody has a problem, you can give me a call at Fox 2 News. And I've taken care of many helicopter rides for 10 minutes that cost $50,000. And I've been able to get rid of all of them. There's not a day that I go down to Call for Action at Fox 2 that we have scams. Unfortunately, a lot of, especially older people, fall for these. And a lot of them are in the tens to $20,000 to $30,000 ranges. And I just shake my head when I see these. And for the scams, there's nothing I can do. For any medical problems that you think is not right, I can usually take care of those.
There we go. There we go. Thank you.
So do we have any other questions?
I have one more question, just out of curiosity. How often do these scammers get caught and actually do prison time or pay fines or whatever the punishment is for people perpetuating these scams?
In my experience, not very often. They're usually in Nigeria or someplace in the middle of Africa.
That's exactly right. With these organized crime scams, they are really good at hiding themselves. But even so, some of them are very brazen because they know that they can't be reached where they are. So the way and they do get caught though, in that scam that I mentioned, the virtual vehicle vendor fraud. That one was in Kentucky, and they were able to find the people who were local. They started working more in the country with more local people, and they got them, and I think they were the money mules, and then they worked their way back, and they worked with, I believe it was the Romanian government, and extradited these people. So a lot of times it takes a while. You know, for us, it was very frustrating because we're not a government agency. We can't take action, but we had all of this information, but it had to reach a certain threshold for the FBI to get involved. So there are all these things that slow this down. Meanwhile, more people are getting scammed. But as soon as they took down that cell, the activity just dropped for about 2 years.
There's another legal scam out there. It's these urgent care centers that have popped up on every corner. The reason that they've all popped up is that Congress about 2 years ago passed a new code that they could code. And I've had people walk in there. I had one man walk in with just a splinter in his finger, and they told him they couldn't take care of it, and they sent him over to St. Anthony's. St. Anthony's took a tweezer and pulled the splinter out. The bill from the urgent care center was over $1,000 just to send them there. You have to be very careful at these urgent care centers because they're profit centers especially for the hospitals and everything. And they want to get the same billing as if you worked into an emergency room. And the new code allows you to bill from 1 to 5, depending on the severity of the code. And unfortunately, something like a splinter gets coded as a 4 or a 5. And that's how the bill gets up to $1,000. This is legal scamming by our government, by our insurance companies. It happens every day to thousands of people. I have case after case handling this for people down there. I get them out of all this, but the average person has no idea how to take care of it.
Right, right.
So urgent care centers, make sure you know what you're being charged for before you walk in. And make sure, the other problem is some people, I had one man sent to St. Louis University because they thought he had Aetna, but it was a different Aetna. He could have gone to Barnes and it wouldn't have cost him anything. In the emergency room, they ran up a bill of $20,000. They sent him there by mistake, but he owed that. I was able to get him out of the whole $20,000. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to get to the right insurance, the right hospital emergency room. Make sure your insurance plan covers that hospital emergency room. Because if not, it could cost you $20,000 or $30,000. He didn't even get into the room yet. It cost him $20,000.
Well, I want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if the phone numbers that we have, let's see, oh, it's not.
I stopped the sharing, but I have it. We can email it to them, and we can also, it'll be like we recorded this, and it'll be on our website, and it'll be sent to each of you. So you'll have that, those contact phone numbers for Rebecca. If you have any questions, you can contact myself or Susan. So, so thank you so much, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Do you have anything else you would like to share?
Okay. Stay safe, everybody. It was my pleasure to spend an hour with you. Take care.
Very nice talk. Very nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye. If you ever have any, Susan, if you ever have any, I'm Steve Rudinsky. If you ever have any problems with healthcare, just give me a call. I'll take care of it for you.
All right, it sounds like you're the man.